Yo, what's up, guys? It's your boy Bernie here, back at you again. Today what we got is, you're going to see my face for the first time for these Raw reviews. We saw that our Kurt Angle breaking news video did so well, so I thought maybe this is what one of the success part of about why we got so many views in that video. But let's just jump right into it, guys. So what we got today on the agenda is the October 22nd, 2017 TLC pay-per-view that was held in Minnesota, and let's just jump right into it. So the pre-show, of course, was very boring, nothing too out of the ordinary. The only thing really worth mentioning is that it was Alicia Fox versus Sasha Banks. Nothing too big about that, but I guess you could say that Sasha Banks just keeps getting them checks. Wonder if they'll ever use her properly because she's actually really such a big talent, but they probably will never use her that way, which is such a shame because I think that she's so good. She's so good at what she does, but of course WWE doesn't see that for some reason. I don't think they think that she's too dangerous or not, but that's pretty much it for the pre-show, and this is going to be a long one. Just get a lot of talking points here. So for the first match, of course, what we had was the Emma versus Asuka match, and the commentators kept pointing out of how this was like an opportunity, but to me, how can it be an opportunity when Asuka is about to destroy you? And in this match, we saw basically, I'm not going to say it was almost the same as the TakeOver London, but it definitely was a similar type of style in terms of they had a long match, which I know a lot of people were angry about, and I saw on the Twitter feed and just stuff about this match was that they were angry that Asuka didn't just destroy Emma because of the way that she's been booked. But I think in this case, it helps both Asuka and Emma. And the reason why I say that is because Asuka is already credible if you know her. And the thing is that goes back to my point that I talked about in our review with me and Pete, was that they really needed to bring up her NXT accomplishments right away so that we could get a fair assessment of who she is and why she came up to the WWE. And I don't think they did that at all. I think what they did was they kind of rushed it, and they didn't really plan it out properly, because if I was the WWE, I would have said, you know, Asuka's undefeated. She's a big beast. She's already faced Emma once before. Can Emma get that win back? And I think that would have been a lot more credible. And if you would have built Emma in a way where she actually was a lot more credible than she was already, in terms of actually having her win a lot of matches. I wouldn't say a lot of them, but not jobbing out to like a Nia Jax or anything like that. Actually build her up properly if this is the way you were going to go in the first place. I mean, you guys built up the storyline, so you should have figured that out already, WWE. And that's the only disappointing thing about that feud. But I thought it was a pretty good match because it helped Emma in a way that she was actually a lot credible, because she went toe-to-toe with Asuka, and Asuka is one tough SOB. She is so, oh my god, she's so cool. And this match was a little bit more technical, I would say. It was a little bit, it wasn't as hard-hitting as London. I know London and her other matches that she's had with, like, especially Ember Moon recently, that if you guys watch NXT, so recently it would be Ember Moon. And that, to me, was a lot hard-hitting, and I could see how that people were a little disappointed that that didn't happen, but you can't be mad at this match. It was definitely a good match. Emma was definitely the right person for this match. Let's see what else I had in my notes here. Asuka had a great reaction when she came out. You know, it wasn't the Shinsuke Nakamura or anything like that, but it definitely was a good reaction because she is that much of a beast and a baller. So we're just going to have to see where it goes on from there, guys. We'll just have to... we'll see, because right now this is just part one of the test, and that is hoping and praying that they don't do something very stupid with Asuka. My fear is that they're going to have Asuka win the Raw title on a random Raw, and then next week have her lose to Alexa Bliss and do this little flip-flop, hot potatoing the title between Alexa Bliss and Asuka, which if that happens, I'm going to be so pissed about it, because Asuka is worth more, and she should just dominate that division. You know, she should have close matches here and there, but she should just dominate the division. There's no competition. There's nothing there. If they build her like NXT, if Triple H gives Vince McMahon the instruction manual on how to book Asuka, please, Triple H, just plaster that all over Vince's wall, Vince's house. Send him multiple text messages. Just send him a bunch of emails saying Asuka needs to be undefeated and a champion throughout the whole year. I mean, there's no discussion, there's no debate that should happen. But like I said, Asuka wins with the Asuka lock. One Sorry, not 1, 2, 3, because it's just a tap out. But she wins the match. Like I said, good match for both Emma and Asuka. Builds Emma up as more of a credible threat, and I hope that they do that more often with these women because they deserve to be more credible, especially the ones that we know from NXT and how they were once before. You should always have built them up that way, and we'll just see where it has to go from there. But let's move on to the second thing, and that was just a Miz and Bar segment along with the other guys, Kane and Braun Strowman. Of course, nothing too crazy. Miz is just mad that Kurt Angle's in there. Nothing too out of the ordinary. Wish they would have Cesaro's not talk with the mouth guard. I don't know if it's like a rib on him, like just to make him more buried or something like that. It's just very childish and high schoolish that I hate it so much. I hate that part of WWE if that's the case, but we'll see. I mean, if it is the case, then I'll be I would just be pissed if I was Cesaro. That would terminate me. Not terminate, but it would lead me to leave the company because I would hate that they forced me to do something where I would look stupid in front of camera. At least that's in my opinion, but this was still a cringe segment. At this time, I thought they better not job out Braun Strowman in like a very kind of shitty way, but we'll get to that when we get to there for the final main event. So the next thing that was like a big of importance was the Elias, I almost said Samson, but he's just Elias now, but the Elias segment. And that basically just was him playing his guitar, playing music, of course getting that nuclear heat to go away. But I don't know why they wasted our time with Jason Jordan throwing vegetables at him. It just seemed very stupid and childish. It's just the things that you could have done for Jason Jordan and you just didn't do it. I don't know what they were doing. It was just definitely wasn't something I was very fond of. And you kind of just buried Jason Jordan because he can't get out of this Kurt Angle son thing because he will always have that as his character in the WWE, but, to each their own, Vince. I mean, if that's how you wanted to do it, Vince, that's how you wanted to do it. But let's go to another match here, and that is the Brian Kendricks and Jake Gallagher match versus Cedric Alexander and Rich Swann. Again, this match went a little bit longer than I expected, and I think for good reasons. It actually did pan out very well because I saw the crowd actually react to this match. It was definitely a match where I felt Cedric and Rich Swann, Jake Gallagher and Brian Kendricks, I mean, they all got their stuff in. It was a very good match. It was hard-hitting, especially from Cedric. Cedric just had those hard elbows, and the lumbar check is just one of the... I couldn't even imagine taking a lumbar check, but it was great to see Cedric actually getting cheered for once in this cruiserweight gimmick that they have him in because, the cruiserweights have been very buried. They haven't been very good, but I just like that they actually did something with him this time. It wasn't just a very, 5-minute match. Cedric wins. It was a very good match. It was elongated. Everybody had their spots. Everybody had their moments. And the crowd actually cheered for him, and that's what I noticed. The crowd actually gave an F about this match, which, you've never seen before in a cruiserweight match. I'm glad that they're finally somewhat doing that, but WWE needs to capitalize on that momentum and see that, oh, look, if we actually give these guys more time to wrestle, they will get over. Like I said in the other reviews, if they would just get rid of the weight limit, if they would just have Cedric actually battle like a Seth or Dean, like other YouTubers have said, then I think he would definitely get over and he would definitely be more cheered upon with the fans because he's had a great match against Kota Ibushi, but they just didn't know what to do with him and they put him in this 205 gimmick where, if you're like, it's kind of crazy to me that Finn Balor's not 205, but Cedric Alexander's under 205. It just makes no sense to me, but it is what it is, man. I mean, that's pretty much it. Lumbar check for Cedric wins. 1, 2, 3. Beautiful match. Rich Swann, Cedric Alexander. Great guys. Great opponents. Jake Gallagher also did very well, and so did Brian Kendrick. So, props to them for that match. But let's move on to the next segment here. And it's going to be the Alexa Bliss versus Mickie James match. Yeah, basically they just... Mickie James just slapped Alexa Bliss's ass, and that was pretty much it for memorable in this match. But otherwise, the crowd was all right with this match. They were chanting for tables because they were promised a TLC pay-per-view, so they wanted a TLC type of match. But of course, they weren't going to get it until the final match. But basically, this match was okay. It wasn't anything too exciting. The crowd was very quiet at most points, other than for the table thing. And that's pretty much it for this. Alexa Bliss wins with the DDT. And it's kind of crazy to me, and I thought about this as soon as this match was over, is that Alexa Bliss has held this title, although if she's, flip-flopping between Sasha and other girls. But I just thought it was kind of crazy that to me that it feels like she's been the longest reigning champion. And it's not been someone like Sasha Banks or Charlotte if they would have kept her on Raw. But, I mean, I wish Sasha Banks would get a chance. I know Alexa Bliss is very good on the mic and she has a very good presence and persona about her. But I also think Sasha Banks has that when she's a heel. But, of course, they're not going to make her a heel until the Bayley thing, which I feel like that ship has sailed for now. They'll probably can rekindle it and rebuild it. But they definitely need to do something about that if that's what they want to do. But that's pretty much it for that part of it. And next we get to the part where, I'm sorry, I skipped one thing. So there was an interview at the end of the match for Mickie James, which I never understood why that happens for the loser. The loser gets the interview. I don't know why. But basically, Mickie James was in tears. She was crying about it, saying that, only her true fans support her. She was very emotional about it. And it kind of made me think, like, is she leaving the WWE? Is her contract over soon? Because she definitely felt, and it seemed like that she was going to leave soon. So a little sad to see because I think Mickie James is actually a great worker and I think she could do wonders. But of course, they're not going to push her to the moon, or they're not going to push her because, you have Asuka in there now. You have all these other women that are capable of winning the championship. So you don't want to fill everything to the top yet. Although Mickie James is great and she's had her history with the company, it's just, I don't know, man. I think it's just time for her to go out to the indies again, or if she wants to country sing like she's done before, or, be with her son. Because, I don't know, to me, I feel like her time has come, and it's time for these new women, like the Alexa Blisses, the Asukas, the Baileys, the Sasha. I mean, Bayley not really because she's kind of buried, but you know what I'm saying. It's time for them to step into it so that they can become like a Mickie James or like an Alundra Blaze or any of these famous WWE Hall of Fame legend women, because it would just build their credibility up more. And I wish they would do that with the men. Just have these younger people put over from the older wrestlers, because it would just make more sense to me why they would not have that. It just doesn't make any sense because of the way that wrestling is. It's you always want to put the next guy over because you want to build for the future. But it feels like they're just dipping into the cookie jar trying to grab the yesteryear's wrestler, which to me is just not the right formula. We did that with Kane. And we'll talk about that match and how I felt about it. But it just was so I should just move on because I'm just gonna ramble about how you shouldn't reach for past superstars. But let's just go on to the next thing. Again, it was a Kurt Angle backstage segment where he's getting ready for the match, and I was laughing so hard because they gave Kurt Angle, Seth and Dean Ambrose actually came into there to talk to Kurt, and they actually gave him the vest, the Roman Reigns vest. I don't think it was the exact same one. I'm sure it was probably like a Dean Ambrose spare, but they gave him the vest. They said, "You're gonna need this for tonight because we're going to war." And I was like, if he puts on the vest, I'm just gonna lose it. I'm going to lose it because if he puts on the vest, oh man. But let's move on to the next thing right quick. And that was just another segment that led to another one, and that was the Elias Sampson again. This was just him playing his song. He actually played it pretty long. And then, again, Jason Jordan throwing vegetables at him. Just not something I want to see. Something that probably should have been eliminated from this card. I don't know why it wasn't, but, I'm sure they have their reason for it. I don't think it was going to get Jason Jordan over or anything like that, but they just did it for whatever reason. I don't know. They just did that. But let's move on to the next match, and that was the Cruiserweight title match. And that is the Enzo Amore versus Kalisto match. And I'll say this, as a Hispanic person, I would love to get another Rey Mysterio-like character, but Kalisto is not the guy. WWE needs to do a better job of getting the right guy because, I just think Kalisto, he just fumbles his words too much. His wrestling style is not bad, but of course he's working with Enzo Amore, so of course nothing is going to be good at all about working with Enzo Amore. Enzo Amore is probably the worst worker in the WWE. He's a good punching bag and a good throw bag, but he's definitely not the best worker, and it showed here tonight because there was a couple of moves that seemed like they were botched, and I wouldn't put it all on Enzo, but Kalisto, I'm sorry, dude. I want to get behind you as a Hispanic person, as someone who really wants to get the next Hispanic Rey Mysterio or whoever. The next. I want to see Andre Cien Almas be the next guy, and I think he will be. But I just want to see a guy like that come up to a luchador come up like Rey Mysterio. But it just looks like it's not going to happen. At least not with Kalisto or Sin Cara. I don't know why I'm talking about Sin Cara in this, but like I said, it would have been nice to see it. But I'm just going to end it here with the Enzo and Kalisto match. Is that Enzo wins dirty, beats Kalisto 1-2-3 to win the Cruiserweight title. And another thing also, before I forget to mention it, Enzo sounded like he had those mumps that were passed down on Raw. He must have given everybody the mumps. I swear to God, if Enzo gave everybody the mumps, there's gonna even be more heat on this guy. There has to be more heat on this guy. This guy, I'm not gonna say he did it, but it almost seems like he gave everybody the mumps. So, be careful if you hang out around Enzo Amore. He might give you the mumps. Anyway, going on to the next thing here is a match that I have a lot of notes on, and that is the AJ Styles versus Finn Balor match. And you know what? This was match of the night. This was definitely match of the night, and of course everybody knew that it was going to be match of the night as soon as the card changed, because these two guys had a wrestling match, and I'm glad, like JD from New York said, is that they didn't use some BS excuse or some lame-ass excuse to give the reason as to why AJ Styles is in this match. I'm glad they just said, because of the circumstances that happened, we had to make this match AJ Styles versus Finn Balor, Wrestler A versus Wrestler B, and just a very good, hard-hitting affair. A great match from two guys that used to be in New Japan and now are in the WWE. And, of course, WWE with the pettiness of the New Japan Pro Wrestlers and ROH guys with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. Of course, they had to be a little bit cheesy with the two sweets. Of course, AJ was doing it at the beginning. And it will lead on to later in this match when we talk about the ending. But crowd was hyped for it. AJ Styles came out. The crowd was going ecstatic. They were cheering for it. Like I said, though, I wish they would have had a better build to it, because it would have just made more sense to me if the build was there. And I wish it was there, because these two guys have been so good. And if they would have built up the club the right way, obviously we're not going to get them tonight because of the way they've been booked. But if you would have built the club up the right way, where they were still like a dominant tag team or anything like that, just make them dominant. I think it would have been a perfect way to kind of have Finn Balor, especially because since all those three guys are on Raw, to have Finn Balor in the club just kind of beat up on AJ Styles after the match and, form the club so they can go against the Shield. But, of course, that's not going to happen. It never will happen until I feel like all four of those guys are on the same roster. But, of course, there were two sweet chants here. They had they just had a great match, man. I just enjoyed it so much. Hard-hitting match, like I said. And something that we didn't see for a while, I don't know if it was banned or not, but Finn Balor brought back the 916 finisher move, and I was like, holy shit. I didn't think they were going to bring it back, because if you remember, I think that was one of his early NXT moves, was the 916, but I don't know why they got rid of it for the coup de grace. But I think that would have made more sense if the 916 was the Demon's finisher, or the Demon should have a different finisher, and I think we talked about this before in our reviews. They definitely should have a different finisher than what we get now from the regular Finn Balor, the pop up the collar Finn Balor, because I feel like it just makes more sense for me to have the Demon have a different finisher and different movesets. But to each their own, it had to happen. They've done it before in terms of the Demon had the same moveset, so you can't change anything. You're just gonna seem like you're complaining, which I know I am, but I think in my case I'm right. I feel like, because a different finisher from Finn Balor and a different moveset from the Demon Finn Balor would just be a nice finishing touch to a character that I feel like can be very different from the Finn Balor, where I feel like sometimes, and I think minor people agree with me, is that he just seems very boring sometimes, because he's very generic in his talking and his verbiage and his just delivery of promos, which I know promos aren't the end all be all, but it definitely helps. And I wish they would just let him be themselves and let him have different movesets. Let him enjoy the character and build it the way he wants to. I don't know if that's the way he wants to do it, but I don't know. I feel like it should have been that, but I'm getting off track here. Again, some great false finishes everywhere. AJ Styles with the awesome Pele kick. And then pretty much AJ loses to Finn Balor with a coup de grace, which, you know, I would have loved to see the match go a little bit longer, maybe another 10, 15 minutes. But, you know, of course, I had to get taken up with Elias and Jason Jordan's produce aisle gimmick. Basically, Jason Jordan went to the produce aisle, got as much vegetables and kale and all the stuff that he doesn't eat. I wouldn't say doesn't eat, but he uses in his smoothies. He just threw it at Elias, and that time should have been used for the AJ Styles and Finn Balor thing. I know it's going to seem like I'm a little heated and ranted right now, but I'm a little bit exhausted from this because of the last match, and we'll talk about it. I know I keep like hyping it up for some reason, but we'll talk about what my reaction and opinion is. But like I said, at the end of the thing, everyone was chanting "Too Sweet," and of course, Finn Balor and AJ Styles too sweeted each other. I don't know if that's how you say it. I don't know if that's any. I don't know if I have to pause after that. We'll just say pause. So they too sweeted each other. Pause, and it was just a great moment to see that these guys have such a great match. And like I said, I wish it was a little bit longer, but it is what it is, and we're just going to move on to the next thing. All right, guys, so next we're going to move on to just what happened after the AJ Styles versus Finn Balor match, like I said, which was very fantastic. And that is going to be the now Jason Jordan versus Elias Samson match, which, of course, is going to be the cool-down match before the main event because of the most anticipated debuts since the longest time, and that is the Kurt Angle thing. But first, we got to talk about this Jason Jordan, the son of Kurt Angle, per storyline. You know, this match was okay. It wasn't anything special. I thought it was a little bit boring, and you could just tell the crowd wasn't into it, and I think the thing that sucks is that they really need to get rid of this gimmick for Jason Jordan, but they're stuck with it for life. I mean, I'm hoping they just turn him heel and then Jason Jordan just says, you know what? I was never your son. I am just my own man. I used you because I wanted to get up to the top, and that's why I decided to say that I was your son because I want to get to the top. I mean, I'm hoping that they do that because just having Jason Jordan as Kurt Angle's son is not going to do anything for him. It's just not something that I'm interested in because seeing him just getting a babyface reaction is not working. I don't know what WWE was thinking. It definitely is not going to work. I promise you that, WWE. This thing will not work because you guys have built him up so terribly, and you've almost built him up to where it's going to be another Roman Reigns effect, which no one wants to see a guy shoved down our throats where we won't like him at all. And I think it was a really big mistake to separate him from American Alpha. Him and Chad Gable were a very good tag team, and they just built up that tag team the wrong way, and that's why that didn't work either, and why they didn't get any reaction. Because in NXT, I mean, I'm not going to say it's because maybe a smaller crowd in NXT, you know, they're very, people are smart marks that go to the NXT things, but at the same time, you know, most of these guys are like college students as well, and they also cheered for American Alpha. So you have to understand and you have to realize how to book them. And NXT gives you the blueprint. They give you the manual. I don't know if Triple H is not giving him the keys or the codes or the secret recipe or formula for these NXT guys, but they need to do it because it makes no goddamn sense why some of these guys aren't getting over the way they should and why they aren't being built properly the way they should. I'm hoping that changes, but who knows if that will. I think that'll only change until Triple H is in charge and Vince McMahon decides to retire. He needs to retire, and I wish he would, but it's his company in a way, so you can't knock him for it. But at the same time, Vince, you need to step down and let business handle itself by putting over guys and doing things right for the company instead of putting guys like Jinder Mahal and a failed Roman Reigns thing that's been going on for 4 or 5 years now, Vince. Come on. It's time to step up. Get these guys more over. Get the guys that you signed that are over with the fans to get them pushed up to a world championship. And guys that you say don't have the brass rings like Cesaro need to get an opportunity because you saw what Cesaro can do and you just don't trust him. For whatever reason, you don't trust him. But anyway, I'm getting off point here before we decide to go on any further. So going back to the Elias Jason Jordan match, again, just nothing else really to talk about other than Jason Jordan wins, which kind of sucks because Elias was actually, he got some of that nuclear heat. He was a good heel, and that's what was special about him. But now, no one wants to walk with Elias anymore after Jason Jordan beat him, and I'm hoping Elias does something now because I think Elias is someone who could get over really well with the crowd. whether it's babyface or heel. I think he has the babyface run in him. I mean, you see in some towns he actually gets cheered when he actually strums his guitar. So I don't know, man. We'll see about that one. And like I said, Jason Jordan wins the match, and who cares about that? But the thing you guys are really here for, and the thing that I'm going to be talking about, and that is the clusterfuck. And yes, you heard me right. I said clusterfuck of a match called look at me say terrible things here. So Kurt Angle, Seth, and Dean Ambrose versus The Miz, The Bar, Kane, and Braun Strowman in a TLC match. And the weird thing about this match is that, you know, as soon as the heels came in with their entrances, that when the Shield decided to come out, they came out to the Shield music, but it wasn't the Shield music. I believe it was still the Roman Reigns version of their music. So, you know, of course you had to put Roman Reigns still in there, the WWE and Vince and Kevin Dunn and whoever else is back there mixing and producing. You just had to, of course, put in that Roman Reigns thing just to get the smart marks to kind of complain about this match. But it was kind of weird to see that they played his music, they were all geared up, and that coming in from behind. So it was, they were coming in from the crowd, like I said, or like I'm saying now. Seth and Dean are up there, and then all of a sudden you see Kurt Angle walking in with the biggest grin on his face as soon as he came through as the third guy, and the crowd was cheering for it. I just thought it was funny to me because as a Shield, and I think one of the guys that I follow on YouTube, Wisely, he said it perfectly, is that you're not really, like when you're in the Shield and you're part of that three-man squad, you're not supposed to smile. You're supposed to frown and be pissed. You're supposed to have a serious demeanor about your face. But I still thought it was funny because it was like basically like your uncle or your dad trying to fit into the crowd, still trying to wear like the young people clothes and trying to wear all the young stuff, saying, yeah, I'm hip and cool, right, guys? But anyway, let's just continue on here. Like I said earlier, I was going to laugh out loud if Kurt Angle came out in the vest, and what do you know? He came out in the vest looking like a very goofy dad. And, you know, you got to appreciate Kurt. He always, when he dresses up or does anything special, he always knows how to put on a show, and I'm glad that he did that for this. But even he can't save this match, and this match was just a very, like I said in the beginning, it was a very clusterfuck of a match. I was a little disappointed in it. I would say that I'm not, like, upset about it, but I'm definitely not thrilled about what happened because you kind of wasted Kurt Angle's momentum, and I wouldn't say momentum, but you wasted his match. I don't know if he gets one more, if he gets a couple more, but you wasted his match on the Shield TLC match, which turned out to be a huge clusterfuck, and we'll get into it right away. So, of course, it starts off with the Shield coming out in their classic, holding the chairs outside the ring, going to jump into the ring with the 5 guys in there. And like I said, it just sucks that it was wasted on this moment because it turned out to just be one huge clusterfuck. I mean, you saw guys just getting beat up out there. You saw them just battling out. It almost looked like a Royal Rumble match in some sense. And I was just kind of disappointed in it. I believe that Kurt Angle deserved a better entrance and a better match for it, whether it was against maybe Jason. I mean, I know Jason Jordan's not the best, but it definitely would have helped his character, putting some younger talent over. But let's just continue on of what I have in my notes here. So Kane is the one that goes after Angle first, and what I noticed there. And we'll talk about Kane a little bit later. And basically we saw that, I was wondering this when I was watching the match. Is Rollins going to get his revenge on Kane? Because Kane was the one guy that he had a match with, Seth Rollins that is, that ended Seth Rollins' run for a little bit and ended his WrestleMania return, which kind of sucked for him, and I thought they would play up that storyline a little bit more. I think the commentary did mention it when Seth Rollins was attacking Kane, and I thought that was a pretty good continuity thing in terms of you still mention that, you know, Seth Rollins will have beef with Kane because of what happened to Seth Rollins' knee, although it wasn't Kane's fault in reality, but, you know, it was the guy he went up against, and of course you have to blame him if you have to blame someone. But, you know, there was also another great ladder spot where they set up Kane and Braun Strowman on the tables, on the announcer tables. I believe it was the Mexican announcer table and the German one. And they set up the ladders up. So Seth and Dean Ambrose were on top of it, and then they just fell right on top of those guys. A very good spot at the beginning. And then we saw Seth grab the knee instantly, and I'm glad that it was a storyline thing. I'm hoping that it's a storyline thing because he was able to continue the match in a very tough and hard match. So it was a very good to see that he didn't get injured. And that was like the main thing. I'm hoping that he didn't get injured from this because it would suck to have Seth Rollins out again because it would limit your superstars who are already affected with a disease, whether it's meningitis or the mumps. There's conflicting reports about what it is, but I'm going with what Wrestling Inc. said, and that is mumps. But, it would suck to see him get injured along with the guys that are sick. But anyway, I mean, the reason why I called it a clusterfuck is because there are just a bunch of random spots and just random stuff that went on in this match, especially with Kane. And I'm just going to cut to it. So Kane decided to attack Braun Strowman after, I believe, Kane hit Braun Strowman with the chair at the beginning of the match, and they, of course, they settled the piece. Everything was calm. But then out of the blue, Kane just attacks Braun Strowman, and he chokeslams him through the stage. And then all of a sudden, you see these props. For TLC, they set up like props, and there was like ornaments of chairs. And basically, Kane just ripped down all the chair ornaments onto Braun Strowman. Basically, murder was attempted here from Kane and the rest of the team from The Bar and The Miz. And we'll get to that here with the fact that Braun Strowman just went berserk afterwards because of the way that Kane went at Braun Strowman. So, of course, they were going to have like a match, or not a match, but they were going to fight each other. And, of course, the team was settling for peace, but Braun Strowman was having none of it. But, of course, this leads to The Miz bringing out the dumpster truck because he said in a opening promo earlier that he wants to treat Kurt Angle, Seth, and Dean the garbage they are, and put them in the dumpster and send them out. So, Miz brings out the dumpster. It was meant for Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, but instead of those two going in there, it was Braun Strowman who went in there, and basically they just said, "Thanks for your services, Braun Strowman. We're going to throw you away now," which, to me, that's murder. They need to investigate. I hope WWE opens up an investigation of what the hell happened to Braun Strowman, because if he's found out dead, I'm going to be pissed because he is probably the thing that made Raw so special. And if they murder him, I'm going to cut a vicious promo on you, WWE. I'm going to cut it. I'm going to cut the promo on you for burying my guy Braun Strowman like that. That better not have been a signal for you to bury Braun Strowman in literal dumpster juice. Oh, man, I better not see that, WWE. But all joking aside, he was thrown into the dumpster, which kind of sucks. Obviously, it meant that Strowman was kind of saved from the eventual L that this team would take. And what happened in that spot was that, Seth and Dean, they get their momentum going, and then it led to a Miz versus Dean Ambrose, Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins going a 2-on-1 match against him. And then, of course, they were outnumbered. And I forget to mention this, but Kurt Angle got hurt in the match. Well, per storyline, he got hurt. And so he had to be taken to the back. But then all of a sudden, you hear the music. Dun, 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 dun. And then, of course, you heard the "You Suck" chants, and Angle, looking like Superman himself, Angle slamming everybody. Angle slamming Sheamus onto the floor. Cesaro onto a table that was next to him. And then they pretty much just went after The Miz. And basically what happened at the end was The Miz took a I wouldn't say a Roman Reigns, but a Shield power bomb. I won't call it a Shield bomb because, Michael Cole and Vince McMahon, they like to have their catchphrases, the Shield bomb. But, a triple power bomb. And we basically saw Kurt Angle do basically his best Roman Reigns impression with the hoorah thing. And of course, Kurt Angle hits the slam. 1, 2, 3. Kurt Angle's the one that gets the pin. And like I said in the review, there was no way that Kurt Angle was going to lose this match, especially when it's his return match. And that was basically your TLC match. The thing I'll say, like I said, about the clusterfuck was that we saw that it was just very chaotic and it was very hard to follow from home. Some of the stuff was okay, but it was still kind of hard to follow. And I thought they could have done a much better job for Kurt Angle's debut and return. But, of course, you had to sell the fans that, they weren't going to get cheated out of having a top main event talent. But you still expect your Seth Rollins and your Dean Ambrose to do that. But obviously they didn't do that. For whatever reason, they just decided to have those two guys and not even like Cassius Ohno. I mean, of course, it would have been like a little Easter egg for us internet wrestling community guys or the guys that watch NXT. It would have been a nice Easter egg, and the guys that follow that stuff. But, you know, WWE went a different path. They went with Kurt Angle. Definitely would not have been my choice, and I said that before in the review. He's just, I think his return is special, and you should have built it up as special and not have him be just a Roman Reigns substitute. Oh, man. I mean, that's the only thing that kind of made me mad. And then it just, of course, the Kane thing versus Braun Strowman. I think that's going to lead to a match, an eventual maybe Raw, or hopefully it's not Survivor Series. I'm hoping it's just like a one-off on Raw so that you can just send off Kane on a high note if you want to. I mean, I don't know why he was brought back in the first place. It just makes no sense to me, in my opinion. But to each their own. If you like Kane, you like Kane. You had fun watching this pay-per-view. But in my opinion, this pay-per-view was, although I had some really good points and I liked it, it just didn't make sense logically booking-wise, and that's why I'm going to have to dock it. I think I said I was going to give it an F or a D-. I'm going to revise that and give it a... I would give it a C+, only because it was just very last minute with some stuff. Although, you know, you had great matches with AJ Styles and Finn Balor, your Asuka match with Emma. There were still some illogical booking things that made the storylines and some of the stuff in the wrestling matches themselves not very believable and not sellable to me. Could have done a lot better in some instances, but, you know, the wrestling, I think, was just good enough to make it another average pay-per-view. I know some people will complain about my review, and there's stuff that you complain about. You always have something to complain about. But in this instance, I felt like there was just a lot of storyline things that just were very illogical of what happened, especially with the Emma thing. I know fans brought that up, and I think that's a very good point. Although I think it helps Emma a lot, I do think it kind of hurts the credibility of like how they built up Emma, and all of a sudden she's good again. They need to really do a better job if they are going to long-term book, and this goes down to long-term booking, guys. WWE needs to learn to long-term book, because this is what's going to help them in the future. If you decide, okay, we know for officially that we want to have Emma versus Asuka, let's build Emma up to the TLC pay-per-view so we can have her look like a credible fighter and doesn't look like a squash match, because the way that we built up Emma so far, she should have been a jobber. But, you know, like I said, little nitpicks and straws about storyline stuff, and that's why I gave it a C+ here, guys. And this is basically going to be the end of the review, guys. Remember to check out the other stuff on this channel. We got the late-breaking Kurt Angle stuff. If you wanted to, you know, check out the previous stuff before, we got Dragon Ball Z reviews. We got The Charge. We got another Charge coming tomorrow. I decided to change it up to Monday because we have other stuff we want to work on the channel here. And I just hope you guys enjoyed the review, guys. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and to always check out the awesome content on this channel, guys. But for now, it's been your boy Bernie. I'll holler at you guys later. Peace.